Hello everyone, I'm Kimberly Blacutt. I'm a landscape architect who is currently a design student at CMU. I've recently become interested in cybernetics as a better way of understanding complex systems and relationships. I was particularly interested in this conference's languaging theme because I agree that the way we describe and represent our world has an impact on the way we perceive it and behave within it. As a landscape architect, I'm used to thinking about relationships between different types of ecological systems within a geographic setting. I've typically represented different types of social, biological, and physical systems as layers. Examining and overlaying these different layers is helpful in making design decisions where we must consider the impact of a design decision on multiple systems. For example, in choosing the best location for a new development, we may overlay layers that reveal transportation routes, ecologically valuable areas, and watershed drainage patterns. The overlay of these systems can help us find points of synergy and contention, which we can then use to make better informed design decisions. Recently, I've been thinking that there is a hugely impactful layer that's missing from the traditional layer cake model, and I think that we should consider in these types of site analysis exercises. So this is a layer that I will need your help further describing, but I will do my best to explain it to you now. This is a live information feedback layer that produces recommendations for people's actions. I would call it the algorithmic layer. So let's examine this algorithmic layer. Firstly, what kind of algorithms am I talking about? I'm talking about any digital platform that uses an algorithm to recommend something to you, because those recommendations can lead to actions. So for example, Yelp or TripAdvisor give you recommendations on where to eat based on ratings. Instagram and TikTok recommend media content for you based on what they think will engage you. And Google Maps or Waze recommend where you should go and what routes you should take based on expected travel time. Now let's take a closer look at Google Maps as an example, and let's think about how their algorithm works. So Google Maps has many functions and more than 1 billion people use it every month. And one of the main functions of Google Maps is to recommend a travel path for someone. While there are filters to better tailor route options to an individual, the default setting optimizes the route with the quickest travel time. So here, I think we should ask our first question, which is, what are the consequences of this optimization? Looking at the case of Google Maps specifically, what does it mean for a navigation app with a global presence and billions of users to always be optimizing for the quickest travel time? Is the goal of our route selection always to find the quickest path? What does this say about the value our society places on being in movement? If travel time should be minimized, does it not suggest that the point of movement is to get from A to B, not to enjoy or make use of the time spent en route from A to B? I think it suggests that the time spent moving is not valuable. This is something to consider and that we'll come back to. Next, how does Google Maps know which route will be quickest? Well, its algorithm compares different route options within a data set. But what is in that data set? Well, of course, Google Maps has a huge and complex data set that is not equally detailed across the world. Their dataset includes data from more than 1,000 authoritative data sources, such as local governments and organizations. Additionally, overhead satellite and airplane imagery, as well as street-level imagery, augment that data. Finally, and here is the interactive part, Google Maps relies on data collected from people and third-party apps who are using Google Maps. So here I want to ask, even though the data set from Google is massive, do you think that there is important information that is missing from them, or information that might be improperly represented? What language can we use to name, reveal, or correct the data sets. And next, what should we make of this interactive mapping? So cartographers have now been talking about a new paradigm in cartography because today the ways in which maps are conceived, produced, and used is different than it was before. Today, we might have cybercartography, where the reader is part of the map-making process because his or her knowledge and even his or her looking at the map can be quantified and fed back into the data. So the reading of the map modifies the map. So next, I would like to ask you, what is the conversation that we have with the algorithm? And what are the consequences of that conversation? Finally, how might algorithms be provoking changes in the physical landscape? So I think that algorithmic recommendations do shape our everyday actions and that those actions have a potential to change the landscape. So I want to ask, how can we reveal, name, and describe the impact that algorithms have on our actions in the landscape? And how can we use that algorithmic understanding to steer our lives into desired futures? Yes, the questions. So to wrap things up and give us all more concrete images to ponder, I want to tell you a few real-world stories. The first showcases the dire consequences of placing our trust in these incomplete and sometimes incorrect data sets. In North Carolina, a man following a Google Maps recommended route died after driving off a bridge that had been destroyed years ago but was not properly classified in the data. Meanwhile, in Nevada, several drivers got stuck for hours on a road that led into the desert due to a road mapping error. These stories show how much trust we placed in our algorithmically mediated platforms and how those might fail us. The next stories are about bringing mechanisms of the algorithm to light. You might say finding ways to hack the algorithm. Here's an example I really enjoy about a Berlin artist who dragged a wheelbarrow with 99 smartphones that had Google Maps running. This caused a traffic jam to be shown on Google Maps on the streets in which the artist was walking, and road users were diverted from him by the algorithm. I also want to consider the ways in which today's interactive maps can lead to personalized maps or personalized GIS, which people are calling PGIS. Because today's interactive maps collect personal data based on our digital interactions, they can offer us personalized maps where the labels and the points that appear on the map reflect targeted advertising or might even adapt geopolitical labels and boundaries based on where we are accessing them from. For example, there are certain contested territories in the world where Google Maps presents 3 different versions based on the viewer's location. This is the case for the disputed Arunachal Pradesh region. In China, this territory is indicated as part of China, although if the map is viewed from India, the territory is labeled as part of India. In the rest of the world, the borders are presented as dashed and the territory is indicated as disputed. Finally, in California, where Waze's algorithm has wrought havoc on certain neighborhoods by indiscriminately directing drivers onto local residential streets to avoid traffic on larger roads, angry residents have reported fake accidents and road incidents on Waze so that the algorithm would determine a route through their street would not save drivers time and would direct drivers away from their streets. Ultimately, these hacks didn't work for long because Waze figured out that residents were faking it and banned them from their app. However, those residents, propelled by a newfound problem of traffic on their streets, decided to take action and actually changed and shaped the rules of their roads by making them one-way streets or installing new signage and speed bumps. I think this is one of the clearest examples of how the algorithmic layer ends up shaping the physical layers. Thank you for your attention. I will now leave you with these discussion questions, and after about 20 minutes, I would love for you all to share your thoughts. Thank you.